The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of the Federation patrol ship times Vigilant Dawn **. Captain Morix checked his screens twice before believing what he saw. A new ship had appeared at the edge of their space, moving slowly through the void between stars. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Morix, of the Galactic Federation. He spoke into his communication device. You have entered Federation territory. Please identify yourself and prepare for escort to the nearest station. The reply came back in a language the ship's computer had never heard before. After a few moments, the translation system worked out the meaning. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Ship Times Endeavour **. We come in peace and request diplomatic contact with your government. Captain Morix felt excitement rise in his chest. A first contact. He had been patrolling this sector for 20 years and had never been the first to meet a new species. The Federation had rules about this. Very clear, very simple rules that had worked for thousands of years. Admiral Chen, welcome to Federation space. I am escorting you to Station Nexus Prime for the standard integration process. Please follow my ship and do not deviate from the flight path. The human ship was small and simple-looking. Captain Morix's sensors told him it used basic warp technology. Nothing special. The hull was made of metal alloys his people had stopped using centuries ago. Their weapons were simple kinetic projectiles, primitive but functional. Everything about the ship said these humans were a young species, probably reaching the stars for the first time. At Station Nexus Prime, Ambassador Zethkar waited in the main conference room. He was a tall, thin being, with gray skin and large eyes that had seen over 200 first contact ceremonies. The process was always the same. New species arrived, usually scared and amazed by Federation technology. They would eagerly share everything they knew in exchange for membership in the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. The human delegation entered the room, and Ambassador Zethkar studied them carefully. They walked upright on two legs, had pale skin and hair on their heads. Their clothing was simple, but clean. They carried themselves with confidence, which was unusual. Most new species were either terrified or so excited they could barely speak. Admiral Sarah Chen stepped forward. She was a woman of middle years, with short gray hair and steady eyes. She moved like a soldier, but spoke like a diplomat. Ambassador Zethkar, she said with a slight bow. We are honored to meet you and grateful for this opportunity to speak with the Federation. The honor is ours, Admiral Chen, Zethkar replied. And we will begin the integration process. Admiral Chen sat down across from him, flanked by two other humans. One was clearly a scientist. The other looked like a military officer. They all seemed calm and alert. The Federation has developed a very effective process for integrating new civilizations, Ambassador Zethkar explained. First, we conduct the revelation process. You will provide us with complete information about your technology, your military capabilities, your scientific knowledge, and your industrial capacity. This helps us determine how your people can best contribute to the Federation. Admiral Chen nodded politely. We understand your standard procedure, Ambassador. We have studied your public communications and have great respect for what the Federation has accomplished. Excellent, Zethkar said, activating a recording device. Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. She looked at her companions, then back at the ambassador. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. We respectfully decline, Ambassador. The words hung in the air like a physical thing. Ambassador Zethkar stared at the human woman, certain he had misunderstood. The translation system must have made an error. No species had ever refused the revelation process. It was not just tradition. It was unthinkable. I apologize, Admiral. Could you repeat that? We decline to share our complete technological information, Admiral Chen said again. We appreciate the Federation's procedures. But Earth's government has voted unanimously on this matter. We will gladly share basic scientific knowledge for mutual benefit. We want to participate in cultural exchanges and honor all peace treaties. However, our complete technological capabilities will remain classified. Ambassador Zethkar felt something he had never experienced in 2 centuries of diplomacy: complete confusion. He looked around the room as if expecting someone to explain what was happening. His assistants stared at their recording devices, unsure if they should continue taking notes. "Admiral Chen," he said slowly, "perhaps you do not fully understand. The revelation process is not optional. It is required for all species seeking Federation membership. Without this information, we cannot determine your threat level, your potential contributions, or your appropriate place in our civilization." The human admiral smiled. It was not a mocking smile or an angry one. It seemed genuinely friendly, which somehow made it more disturbing. "We understand completely, Ambassador. We have no desire to cause difficulties. But our answer remains the same. Then you understand that without compliance, you cannot join the Federation. Your species will be restricted to your home system. Trade will be limited. Cultural exchange will be minimal." "We understand the consequences," Admiral Chen replied. Ambassador Zethkar felt panic rising in his chest. This was impossible. In 3,000 years of Federation history, every single species had eagerly shared their knowledge. Some had tried to hide military secrets at first, but all had eventually complied. It was the foundation of galactic peace. "Admiral," he said, trying to keep his voice steady, "perhaps you need time to consult with your government. This decision seems hasty." "Our government spent 6 months debating this decision," Admiral Chen said. "The vote was unanimous across all Earth's nations and colonies. We will not be providing detailed information about our capabilities." 1. The room fell silent, except for the quiet hum of the station's systems. Ambassador Zethkar realized he was witnessing something that had never happened before in galactic history. A species was choosing isolation over integration, secrecy over membership in the greatest alliance ever created. And somehow, the humans seemed completely unafraid of the consequences. Ambassador Zethkar did not sleep well that night. He kept thinking about the humans and their impossible refusal. The next morning, he called for an emergency session with the Federation Council. Representatives from dozens of worlds gathered in the Great Chamber, their faces showing confusion and concern. "This is unprecedented," said Councillor Vextar from the Synthetic Collective. Her metal body gleamed under the chamber lights as she spoke. "In our records, no species has ever refused the revelation process. How do we proceed?" "We follow standard protocol for non-compliance," replied General Croth of the Militant Union. His massive form filled his chair as he leaned forward. "Economic sanctions first. If that fails, territorial restrictions. If they still refuse, military action." Ambassador Zethkar nodded slowly. "I have already explained these consequences to Admiral Chen." She seemed unconcerned. 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 Unconcerned? Councillor Vextar's optical sensors focused on him. How can they be unconcerned? They have one planet, primitive technology, and no allies. Economic sanctions alone should force their compliance within months. "That is what troubles me," Zethkar admitted. "Their behavior makes no logical sense. Unless what?" General Croth demanded. "Unless they have something we do not know about." The council chamber filled with murmurs and worried conversations. The idea that a primitive species might have hidden capabilities was disturbing. The Federation's power came from knowing everything about everyone. 3 days later, Admiral Chen returned to Station Nexus Prime. This time, Ambassador Zethkar had prepared a more formal presentation. Charts showed the Federation's military strength, economic power, and technological superiority. Admiral Chen listened politely to the entire presentation. She asked thoughtful questions about Federation trade routes and defensive capabilities. She took careful notes about economic sanctions and territorial restrictions. When Zethkar finished, she thanked him for his thorough explanation. "And our answer remains the same," she said calmly. "We will not be sharing detailed information about our capabilities." Ambassador Zethkar felt his patience breaking. "Admiral, do you understand what you are choosing? Your people will be cut off from galactic civilization. No trade, no technology exchange, no cultural contact. Your species will stagnate while the rest of the galaxy advances." "We understand," Admiral Chen replied. "But perhaps you should consider another perspective, Ambassador." "What perspective?" The human admiral leaned back in her chair, and for a moment, her friendly expression became something else. Something that made Zethkar's skin crawl. "You are welcome to try compelling us, of course," she said quietly. "But I should mention, you might want to reconsider that approach." The words were spoken softly, almost gently. But something in Admiral Chen's tone made every being in the room suddenly aware of their own heartbeat. General Croth's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon before stopping. Counselor Vextar's sensors began rapid scanning patterns without her conscious command. "Is that a threat?" General Croth asked, his voice rougher than usual. Admiral Chen's friendly expression returned immediately. "Not at all, General. Simply a friendly suggestion. We truly prefer peaceful solutions." But the moment of menace lingered in the air like smoke from a fire. After the humans left, Ambassador Zethkar called for immediate intelligence operations. If Earth was hiding something, the Federation needed to know what it was. Within hours, their best spy ships were heading toward human space. The intelligence reports that came back made no sense. Earth appeared to be exactly what it seemed. A single planet with several billion humans, basic industrial technology, and primitive military forces. Their colonies were small and recent. Their space fleet consisted of fewer than 50 ships, all using technology the Federation considered outdated. But Dr. Veltar from the Xenopsychology Division noticed something strange in the behavioral analysis. She had studied thousands of species during first contact situations. Fear, excitement, aggression, curiosity. She had seen every possible reaction, but she had never seen what the humans showed. Complete confidence. "It makes no sense," she told the Intelligence Committee. "Species at their level of development should be terrified of us. We have weapons that could destroy their planet from across the system. We have technology that seems like magic to them. Yet they act as if they hold all the advantages in this negotiation. Perhaps they are simply too primitive to understand the danger," suggested Agent Clix from the Intelligence Service. "No," Dr. Veltar said firmly. "They understand perfectly." Admiral Chen asked very specific questions about our military capabilities and defensive strategies. "She knows exactly how powerful we are, but she is not afraid." The mystery deepened when the Federation tried routine surveillance of the Sol system. Their most advanced spy drone approached Earth's orbital space and simply disappeared. No explosion, no debris, no distress signal. One moment it was there. The next, it was gone. 12 hours later, Ambassador Zethkar received a message from Admiral Chen. The text was polite and friendly. "Dear Ambassador, we have rescued the crew of your surveillance drone. They are unharmed and will be returned to you shortly. However, we must insist that you discontinue unauthorized surveillance of our territory. We value our privacy and hope you will respect our wishes in this matter. With friendship, Admiral Sarah Chen." The drone appeared at the edge of Federation space exactly where Admiral Chen had promised. Its crew was alive and healthy, but had no memory of what had happened. The drone's computers had been completely wiped except for navigation data and one additional message. "Humanity values its privacy. Thank you for understanding." Ambassador Zethkar stared at the message for a long time. How had the humans detected their most advanced stealth technology? How had they captured the crew without harming them? And how had they erased specific memories while leaving everything else intact? More troubling still was the tone of the messages. The humans wrote like parents dealing with misbehaving children. There was no anger, no threats, just gentle correction and patient instruction. As if humanity considered the Federation to be the less advanced civilization. That night, Ambassador Zethkar sent an encrypted message to the Federation's highest security council. For the first time in his career, he recommended that first contact be classified as a potential threat to galactic security. The humans were hiding something. And whatever it was making them confident enough to defy the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. Dr. Veltar worked through the night, surrounded by data screens showing every detail the Federation had gathered about humanity. Sleep was impossible. The human puzzle consumed her thoughts like an itch she could not scratch. Something was very wrong with the intelligence reports. The numbers did not match the behavior. She pulled up the scan results from human ships again. The Federation's sensors were the most advanced in the galaxy, capable of analyzing matter down to the quantum level. According to these scans, human vessels were built from simple metal alloys, titanium, steel, aluminum, basic materials that the Federation had stopped using when they developed quantum-bonded composites. But Dr. Veltar noticed something odd in the detailed readings. The metal signatures kept shifting slightly, as if the scanners could not quite decide what they were looking at. She had never seen readings like this before. She opened another file, biological scans of the humans themselves, standard carbon-based life forms, exactly what their appearance suggested. Brain patterns showed normal neural activity. Genetic markers indicated typical evolutionary development. Everything looked completely ordinary, except for one thing that made her skin crawl. When Federation telepaths tried to read human minds, they found nothing. Not resistance, not mental shields, but absolute emptiness. As if human consciousness existed in a space that Federation science could not touch. "Computer, show me historical records of telepathic blanks," she commanded. The system searched for several minutes before responding. No records found of complete telepathic nullification in conscious beings. Dr. Veltar leaned back in her chair. In 3,000 years of contact with countless species, they had never encountered minds that simply could not be read. Some species had natural mental defenses. Others could be taught to shield their thoughts. But humans seemed to exist in a mental void that defied explanation. Her research was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Security Council. Admiral Thex, the Federation's chief intelligence officer, appeared on her screen. His blue-scaled face showed unusual tension. "Dr. Veltar, I need your analysis on the human situation immediately. We have a problem." "What kind of problem, Admiral?" "The FSV Times, Silent Observer Times, was dispatched for deep reconnaissance of the Sol system 3 days ago. It never reported back." Dr. Veltar felt ice in her stomach. The Times, Silent Observer Times, was the Federation's most advanced stealth ship, capable of remaining invisible to any known detection system. It had never failed a mission. "Sir, could they have been destroyed?" "That is what we thought," Admiral Thex replied grimly. "Until this morning." A new image appeared on Dr. Veltar's screen. It was a message from Admiral Chen, time-stamped, just 2 hours ago. "Dear Admiral Thex, we have rescued the crew of the FSV Times Silent Observer **. They are unharmed and will be returned to Federation space within the day. However, we must insist that you discontinue unauthorized surveillance of our territory. Such activities could be seen as hostile, and we truly prefer to maintain peaceful relations." Dr. Veltar stared at the message in disbelief. How did they detect a stealth ship? And how did they capture it without a fight? "Those are the questions I need you to answer," Admiral Thex said. Because in 12 hours, the Times Silent Observer Times appeared exactly where Admiral Chen promised, with its crew intact but suffering complete memory loss of the past 72 hours. The implications hit Dr. Veltar like a physical blow. The humans had not only detected the Federation's most advanced spy ship, but had captured it, treated the crew well, and returned them safely with a polite request to stop spying. The message was clear. They could have destroyed the ship and crew, but chose not to. It was a demonstration of both power and restraint that terrified her more than any threat. "Admiral, I need access to the archaeological databases immediately." "Why?" "I have a theory. And if I am right, we have made a terrible mistake." Dr. Veltar spent the next 18 hours digging through the Federation's vast historical records. She searched for any mention of human-like species, unexplained disappearances, or encounters that defied explanation. What she found made her blood freeze. The first record was from 15,000 years ago. A Federation exploration team had discovered a dead world in the outer rim. The planet showed signs of advanced civilization. Cities that hurt to look at, technology that broke their scanners, and ruins that seemed to exist in more dimensions than normal space allowed. The exploration team had found humanoid bones among the ruins, tall bipedal beings that looked remarkably similar to modern humans. The second record was from 8,000 years ago. Another dead world, another vanished civilization. This time, the explorers had found intact writings that their computers could not translate, and artifacts that seemed to change shape when no one was looking directly at them. There were 17 such records in total, scattered across galactic history. 17 worlds where human-like beings had once lived, and then simply vanished without explanation. Each time, Federation scientists had been baffled by the technology left behind. Each time, the reports described the same feeling among the exploration teams. The sense that they were looking at something far beyond their understanding. Dr. Veltar's hands shook as she compiled her report. The pattern was clear. Once you knew what to look for. Humanity had not just developed space travel. They had been spacefaring for thousands of years, possibly tens of thousands. Every time the Federation encountered traces of their civilization, the humans had already moved on. But this time was different. This time, humanity had chosen to make contact. The question that terrified Dr. Veltar was simple. Why? Why would a species with technology advanced enough to remain hidden for millennia suddenly reveal themselves? Why would they pretend to be primitive? And most frightening of all, what did they want from the Federation? She sent her report to Admiral Thex with a priority classification she had never used before. At the bottom, she added a personal note that would haunt Federation leadership for years to come. "Admiral, we are not dealing with a new species seeking membership in our alliance. We are dealing with an ancient civilization that has been watching us for thousands of years. They know everything about us. We know nothing about them. And for reasons we do not understand, they have decided it is time to make contact. I recommend we treat this situation as a potential existential threat to the Federation. We are no longer the advanced civilization in this encounter. We are the primitives being evaluated." That night, emergency sessions were called across the Federation. Military assets were quietly moved into position. Defense systems were brought to maximum readiness. And for the first time in galactic history, the Federation prepared for the possibility that they had encountered something beyond their ability to control or understand. All because humanity had politely declined to share their secrets. The Federation High Council met in absolute secrecy. Only the 12 most senior members were present, their faces grim as Dr. Veltar presented her findings. The chamber's quantum shields were active, preventing any signal from entering or leaving the room. Supreme Chancellor Morth Ak, eldest member of the Council, spoke first. His ancient voice carried the weight of 3 centuries of leadership. "Dr. Veltar, your report suggests that humanity has been deceiving us from the beginning. That they are not the primitive species they appear to be." "That is correct, Chancellor." "Doctor," Veltar replied. "The archaeological evidence is clear. Human civilization predates the Federation itself. They have been spacefaring for millennia. General Croth slammed his massive fist on the table. Then why the deception? Why pretend to be weak when they clearly are not? That is the question that terrifies me, General Doctor, Veltar said quietly. A species with this level of advancement and patience has reasons we cannot understand. They are playing a game whose rules we do not know. Counselor Vexes Tar's optical sensors focused on the holographic displays showing human ships. Their vessels still appear primitive to our scanners. If they possess advanced technology, why can we not detect it? Because they do not want us to, Dr. Veltar answered. Consider what we have seen. They detected our most advanced stealth ship. They captured it without a fight. They erased specific memories from the crew while leaving everything else intact. Then they returned the ship and crew unharmed with a polite request to stop spying. She paused to let the implications sink in. This was not just a demonstration of military capability. It was a message. They are saying, we can see everything you do. We can stop anything you try. But we choose to be gentle. The council chamber fell silent, except for the hum of life support systems. Finally, Chancellor Morthak spoke again. What do you recommend, Doctor? Extreme caution, Dr. Veltar replied immediately. We are dealing with a civilization that has mastered the art of appearing harmless while possessing devastating capability. They have studied us for thousands of years. They know our weaknesses, our military capabilities, our political structures. Meanwhile, we know nothing about them. Nothing? General Croth challenged. We have scanned their ships, their people, their planets. And what have those scans told us? Doctor, Veltar asked. That they appear exactly as primitive as they want to appear. Every reading, every scan, every piece of data we have gathered shows us only what they choose to reveal. Admiral Thex leaned forward. Are you suggesting our sensors are being fooled? I am suggesting that a civilization capable of remaining hidden for thousands of years has technology we cannot even imagine. Our sensors show us what they want us to see. Nothing more. 8. The discussion continued for hours, growing more heated as the implications became clear. The Federation, masters of the galaxy for 3,000 years, had encountered something beyond their understanding. Worse, that something had been watching them all along. By morning, a decision had been reached. The Federation would authorize Operation Silent Thunder, a preemptive strike against the Sol system using their most powerful weapons. It would be presented as a defensive action against a potential threat to galactic security. General Croth took command of the operation personally. Within days, the largest military force in Federation history was assembled. Ships from 12 different species, armed with quantum torpedoes, antimatter bombs, and reality-shearing weapons. If the humans possessed advanced technology, it would not save them from the combined might of the galaxy. The Armada approached the edge of human space with absolute confidence. General Croth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical displays show their overwhelming advantage. 300 ships against fewer than 50. Advanced weapons against primitive kinetics. The outcome was certain. General, his tactical officer reported, we are approaching the outer marker of human territory. Excellent. Signal the fleet to prepare for combat operations. But as the Federation Armada crossed into human space, something began to go wrong. Not dramatically, not obviously, but in small ways that accumulated into growing unease. Navigation systems began suggesting course corrections away from Earth. Weapon targeting systems developed mysterious calibration errors. Crew members reported strange dreams about returning home to their families. Communication arrays picked up faint signals that sounded almost like voices whispering suggestions to turn around. General Croth dismissed these problems as minor technical difficulties. The Federation fleet continued toward Earth, ready to demonstrate the consequences of defying galactic authority. Then reality changed. It happened gradually, so that no one could point to the exact moment when normal space became something else. The stars looked slightly different. The readings from Earth appeared to shift without reason. Most disturbing of all, every person in the fleet became absolutely certain that continuing their mission would be a very bad idea. "General," his communications officer reported with a shaking voice, "we are receiving a transmission on all frequencies simultaneously. Put it on screen." Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on every monitor in the fleet, not just on General Croth's flagship, but on every ship in the Armada. She sat in what looked like a simple office, her expression calm and friendly. "General Croth," she said, somehow knowing exactly who she was addressing, "I think it is time we had an honest conversation." General Croth felt his confidence drain away like water through a broken container. How was she speaking to his entire fleet simultaneously? How did she know his name? And if entered, raging, and subscribe? How was she appearing on screens that were not even connected to communication systems? "Admiral Chen," he managed to say, "you are interfering with a lawful Federation military operation." Admiral Chen's smile was gentle and understanding, like a teacher speaking to a confused student. "General, there is no need for military operations. We are not your enemies. We have never been your enemies. But we cannot allow you to continue this course of action." "You cannot stop us," General Croth said, though the words felt hollow even as he spoke them. "General," Admiral Chen replied softly, "we already have." It was then that General Croth realized the truth. His weapons were offline. Not damaged, not destroyed, simply inactive. Every targeting system in the fleet was displaying the same message: unable to acquire hostile targets. Every weapon array was showing the same status: safety protocols engaged. The Federation's mighty war fleet had been rendered completely harmless without a single shot being fired. "How?" General Croth whispered. Admiral Chen's expression became infinitely sad. "We hoped it would not come to this, General. We hoped you had grown beyond such impulses. But we understand. Growing up is never easy." Admiral Chen stood up from her chair, and suddenly she was no longer just on the screens. She was there, physically present on the bridge of General Croth's flagship, despite being light years away moments before. The crew stared in shock as she walked calmly across the bridge, her footsteps making no sound. "Please, do not be afraid," she said gently. "We mean you no harm." General Croth reached for his sidearm but found his hand would not obey. Not because he was paralyzed, but because every instinct in his body was screaming that drawing a weapon on this human would be the worst mistake of his life. "What are you?" he whispered. Admiral Chen looked sad as she answered, "We are what you could become, General. What we hope you will become, given time." She gestured toward the main screen, which now showed Earth in perfect detail despite being impossible distances away. But it was not the primitive world the Federation had expected. Cities of light sprawled across the continents, reaching up toward space in spirals of beauty that made experienced soldiers weep to see them. Ships moved through Earth's atmosphere like living things, flowing through the sky as if gravity was merely a suggestion. "This is what we truly are," Admiral Chen said. "We exist partially outside normal space and time. We can manipulate matter through consciousness alone. We have transcended the limitations that bind younger species." "Why hide it?" General Croth asked, his voice hoarse with confusion. "Because fear makes people do terrible things," Admiral Chen replied. "If we had revealed our true nature during first contact, you would have attacked immediately. You would have seen us as an existential threat to be destroyed at any cost." She was right, and General Croth knew it. The Federation's first response to anything beyond their understanding was always the same: eliminate it before it could become dangerous. "We have been watching your species for millions of years," Admiral Chen continued. guiding when we could, protecting when we must. Every Federation world has been visited by our kind at some point in their development. We helped you avoid the worst disasters, nudged you away from paths that led to destruction. Dr. Veltar's voice came over the communication system from another ship. The vanished civilizations in our archaeological records, those were you. Different iterations of humanity, yes, Admiral Chen confirmed. Each time we reach a certain level of advancement, we choose whether to remain physical or transcend to pure energy. Most choose transcendence. But some of us always remain behind to guide the younger species. General Croth felt the weight of cosmic revelation crushing down on him. You have been shepherding us, like children, like beloved younger siblings. Admiral Chen corrected gently. We remember what it was like to be where you are now. The fear, the aggression, the need to control everything around you because you feel so small and vulnerable. We understand, because we were once the same. She walked to the tactical display, which showed the positions of all 300 Federation ships. With a gesture, she highlighted specific vessels throughout the fleet. The crew of vessel designation Beta 77 is currently experiencing engine problems that will require them to return home for repairs. The captain of vessel Theta 92 has just received urgent news that his mate is giving birth and must depart immediately. Vessel Gamma 44 has developed a critical shortage of medical supplies and must resupply. As she spoke, reports came flooding in from across the fleet. Ships were developing exactly the problems she described. Not dangerous failures, but urgent issues that required immediate departure from the battle zone. How are you doing this? General Croth demanded. We exist in more dimensions than you can perceive, Admiral Chen explained. Time flows differently for us. We can see the threads of probability and gently encourage certain outcomes. Your crews are not being forced to leave. They are being presented with genuinely urgent situations that require their attention. Within an hour, General Croth's mighty armada had been reduced to 12 ships. Not through destruction or violence, but through perfectly reasonable circumstances that required most of the fleet to depart on emergency missions. This is impossible, General Croth said, though he was watching it happen. General, your people have a saying. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. What you are seeing is not magic. It is simply science that your species has not yet discovered. Admiral Chen returned to her chair, which had somehow appeared on the bridge during their conversation. She looked at General Croth with infinite patience. We are offering you a choice, General. The same choice we offer every species when they reach this level of development. You can continue trying to solve your problems through force and control, or you can begin learning to solve them through wisdom and cooperation. And if we choose force? Admiral Chen's expression became infinitely sad. Then we will continue to protect you from the consequences of your choices until you grow wise enough to make better ones. Your weapons will malfunction when aimed at civilian targets. Your wars will end in stalemates that force negotiation. Your leaders will find themselves overwhelmed by sudden urges to seek peaceful solutions. She stood up again, preparing to leave. We do not rule through power, General. We guide through example. We protect through presence. And we respect free will above all else. But we will not allow violence to spread beyond your own species. The galaxy is too precious to risk. General Croth found his voice one last time. What do you want from us? Admiral Chen smiled, and for the first time, it was not sad. We want you to grow up, General. We want you to become the kind of civilization that solves problems through wisdom instead of weapons. We want you to reach the point where you no longer need guardians. She began to fade from view like morning mist. When that day comes, we will welcome you as true equals. Until then, we will be watching, and we will be here to guide you when you are ready to learn. The Federation fleet found itself gently but irresistibly guided back to their home systems. Their weapons remained permanently modified, to be incapable of targeting civilian populations. Their military strategies inexplicably shifted toward defensive rather than offensive capabilities. Most importantly, their leaders found themselves overwhelmed by a sudden understanding that the galaxy was much larger and more complex than they had ever imagined. Humanity had revealed their secret at last. They were not hiding advanced technology. They were hiding advanced wisdom. And they were offering to share it with any species mature enough to receive it. The Federation would never be the same. But for the first time in their history, they had hope of becoming something better than what they were. And in the depths of space, Admiral Sarah Chen smiled as she watched over her cosmic family. Patient as only immortals could be, waiting for the day when guidance would no longer be needed.